My name is Kara Diano. I'm the Executive Director in CECL, the Center for Community Engagement to Advance Scholarship and Learning. CECL, along with the Office for Public Good Strategy and Research, whom CECL reports to, and the Associate Vice Provost, Dr. Ann DePrince, we manage the Public Good Fund, which is an annual fund for faculty for community engaged scholarly work. So I'm going to walk through the request for proposals today, and then if you have any questions at the end, feel free to ask. Right. So I wanted to start with just an overview of what we consider community engagement. We really think of community engagement as a method. It's a strategic approach to research, creative work, and teaching that addresses public problems. What's really most important to us when we're thinking about community engagement, especially in regard to the Public Good Fund, is that it's reciprocal and mutually beneficial. And what that really means is that the community collaborators have been involved in the design of the project that you're undertaking, as well as the implementation. And that all parties involved in the process are having conversations not only about shared benefit and benefit that has been identified not by the academic for the community, but that the community has been able to have some say in how they might benefit from the scholarly project that's being proposed, but also having conversations about the risk that we might be asking folks to take on, and working to ensure that that risk feels equitable as best we can. So we're really looking for projects that have had those conversations about reciprocity, mutual benefit, and shared risk. The community engaged project, it may be local, it might be national, it could be global. So really the spatial location or geographic location is really broadly defined. It's the sort of the essence of that reciprocity that matters more in thinking about what community engagement is in the context. So when we're thinking about community engaged scholarship, right, we're talking about scholarship that addresses a public problem. It's really emphasizing the co-production of knowledge. So again, recognizing the strengths, knowledge, experience, and assets that our community collaborators are bringing to the project in conversation with our academic expertise. It values those critical approaches that strive for equity and inclusion. So really, again, having those conversations with community collaborators about sort of equitable task sharing, equitable risks and benefits, et cetera. Again, I think I've said this a lot, but that it demonstrates a strong collaboration with community partners in the process. And really is thinking about dissemination strategies that aren't only academic, but also community oriented and community focused, so that the community is benefiting from the outputs of the scholarly work. So when talking about the community in community engaged scholarship, I wanted to ensure that folks know that we take a really broad approach to what we consider community. Nonprofits and grassroots organizations are often what folks think of, but a government agency might be a community collaborator. It could be an entrepreneur or a business. In some cases, we have had faculty who are collaborating with a particular population. So it isn't necessarily an agency and organization, but there is community voice that's a part of the process and really centered and reciprocal in that. So community is really broadly defined. However, community partners are not typically collaborators from other universities. They aren't other academics. They're individuals who are representative of the community of interest that you are examining. So wanted to share that. It also might be useful to review this spectrum of different ways that we might do community involvement. And on the one end of the spectrum, on the far left-hand side, we see outreach, right? And outreach-oriented projects, right? These might have implications for community or data that's collected in communities or findings of your research that are shared with communities. However, projects that are really about outreach to the community without exchange aren't a good fit for the community engaged funding through the Public Good Fund. So keep that in mind. However, on the other end of the continuum are projects that are community driven, where communities take the lead in directing the project and final decision-making ability lies with them. However, this isn't the only kind of approach, nor is it even the most common approach that we necessarily support in the fund. So projects at this end of the spectrum certainly are a match for the Public Good Fund, but so are the others in the middle. If you're looking for projects that really have strong evidence of consultation and information sharing with the community, they might fall in the consultation, involvement, or shared leadership sections of the spectrum as well. All right, so now if we're thinking about the scholarship piece and community engaged scholarship, I just wanted to point out that the fund does not privilege a particular method within the community engaged umbrella. Certainly projects may involve participatory or action methods, but mutuality and reciprocity can also be components of scholarship that uses a range of methods, including basic research as well. So it isn't methodological. There is no particular method that is necessary for the Public Good Fund. It really is about ensuring that that community engagement is incorporated no matter what kind of scholarship you are doing. So a quick summary for the Public Good Fund of what we are looking for in terms of community engaged scholarship. We're looking to answer the question of whether there is community involvement with mutuality and reciprocity that is defined by the community and beyond outreach, right? Did the community have say in determining what the benefits might be for them? And does the project not only benefit the community, does it also benefit faculty scholarship? So that's another important question that the members of the Public Good Fund Committee will ask as well. All right, so at this point, I'll dive into some specifics of the actual Public Good Fund. We'll talk about eligibility, what's funded, the review committee, deadlines, award notice, and then I'll talk through the application process. As far as eligibility go, it is important to point out that only appointed faculty can serve as a PI or co-PI. So that means visiting faculty, adjunct faculty, grad students, and postdocs aren't able to serve as a principal investigator or co-principal investigator. However, those individuals can serve as co-investigators on projects. So we have supported projects before where grad students and postdocs or adjuncts are also engaged, but there has to be a demonstration that the faculty member leading the project is an appointed faculty member. So fundable versus non-fundable expenses. There's more details in the RFP. If you have not looked at the request for proposals, I would certainly encourage you to do so. But a couple of things to point out is that for faculty members on the proposal, whether they're PIs or co-investigators, summer salary up to 1 month is possible, but non-fundable things include relieving budgets, computers, or expenses that have already incurred. The size of the award is up to $20,000 in this academic year. That's a little bit of a change from past years if anyone has had a Public Good Fund proposal funded in the past. So I wanted to share a little bit about the review committee. It is an interdisciplinary committee, plus typically 1 to 2 community members. Cecil and the Associate Vice Provost for Public Good Strategy and Research, we convene the committee, we manage the request for proposals, but we are non-voting members. So we're here to support you as you're developing your projects. But keep that in mind that it's an interdisciplinary committee. So ensure that the way that you're writing your proposal, that it would be understood and clear for that interdisciplinary audience. The deadline to apply this year is Monday, March 4th at noon. And we typically make notice within about 8 weeks. So that gives us enough time to compile all the materials, give the committee enough time to review them. We convene the committee to make decisions. So you can expect a reasonable start date because you will be asked for a start and end date in the application. A reasonable start date is June 15th. Anything earlier than that may not be able to be accommodated given the amount of time it takes to review those projects. All right. So I'll walk through the application process and what you need to gather for applying. So the first thing is the names and information for the faculty principal investigator and, if applicable, the co-principal investigators. I'm going to turn to that page of the application so I can share that information with you here. Just one moment. So you'll need name, email, department, academic series, and rank. Because the public good funds are dispersed to one academic unit, you will need to identify, if there's more than one co-PI and they're from different departments, which department will be administering the grant, and that's who we will transfer the funds to if awarded. So keep that in mind. Each of the co-PIs will also have to answer whether or not you have previously received public good funds, and if so, how this application is different. You'll also need to ensure that the public good fund, if you have an active public good fund, you can only serve as a principal investigator or co-PI on one funded public good fund project at a time. So if you have a current active award, you will have to indicate that that award will indeed be closed before a new award would be funded, and that all materials, including a final report and return of any unused funds, will happen in advance of a second award if it were to be funded. So keep that in mind, and there's more details in the RFP if you need to review that. Then you have to submit some project information. I have more details on the next slide, so I'll return to that in a moment. You'll need to complete a budget and budget justification. There is a template in the RFP, and it will ask you to include, I'll give you the broad categories. So there's DU salaries and fringe. So if you have student salary that you are including, faculty summer salary, as we indicated, staff salary, and then fringe for all of those, you would need to include that. And also a justification that articulates for faculty how the responsibilities, what the responsibilities would be during the summer. If you are asking for staff salary, you'll need to describe the role of each staff member, as well as the proposed work and why it goes above and beyond any current DU responsibilities. And then for students, you'll need to indicate the hourly rate and that you have set that in accordance with student employment's pay rates and position classification policy. There's a link to that in the RFP, so easy to find. The next category of budget is materials and supplies, so program materials, equipment, etc. You can request travel for DU personnel. If the travel is in excess of 20% of the total budget, you'll need to provide additional justification. We only fund more than 20% of the total budget in extraordinary circumstances that are clearly explained. And then the final category is community. So you have a space to articulate if you will be providing any community partner compensation, any compensation for project participants, and or any travel for community that is included as well. You will fill out the template, and then you will also provide a justification that articulates what folks are doing and how you will use the funds that you're requesting. You'll need a 2-page CV for each of the faculty PIs or co-PIs. You are allowed to include things in an appendix if it supports your documentation, such as survey instruments, focus group protocols. If there's any appendices that you want to include, that's optional. You don't have to, but you do have that space. You'll need a chair or dean letter for each of the principal investigators on the proposal. And then you need a letter from any community partners that you have named in the project as well. So I'm going to jump back now to that project information to give a little bit more details about what you need to include. So one thing I want to point out is that the RFP will indicate character limitations. So pay attention to that, especially if you're preparing your proposal outside of the online application form. So you'll need the title of your project, the community partners, and the names and departments of your co-investigators. Co-investigators do not need to submit CVs or letters from departments deans. You just need to indicate who those folks are that will be on your proposal, the amount that you're requesting, your preferred start date, and your project end date. You'll need to include an abstract, again, that's written for an interdisciplinary audience. Identify 3 keywords for your project, and then you'll have space to define the public problem that the proposal you're writing is addressing. You'll have an opportunity to talk about the community partnership. It's especially important here to document, to make clear to the committee how the community partnership is that reciprocal and mutually beneficial, how the community partner was involved in the design and will be involved in the implementation of the project. So talking about that in the community partnership section is very helpful and necessary. You'll then be able to talk about the goals of your project and the methods you intend to employ, the results and how you'll analyze them, your dissemination plan. And here again, you'll want to make sure that you're talking about how you'll disseminate to both academic and community audiences, whether there will be student involvement in the project, and if so, a description of what that looks like. We do ask for each faculty member on the project to include a positionality statement. There's more details in the RFP that provide some guidance there, but wanting to recognize how you have thought about your own role and positionality in the partnership that you're developing and the project that you'll be implementing. And then for those who have received prior Public Good Fund awards, there is a place to indicate how this project is different. And if you have an active award, how it will be wrapped up before the any new proposal might be funded. So that's what is required for the submission to the Public Good Fund. I am happy to take any questions at this time, and I'll stop this recording now as well.